Hello everybody, we're Jay Sturball here, two-time Hawaii Ironman World Championship finisher, first triple amputee in the world to do that race, motivational speaker, life coach, business coach, film producer, inventor, entrepreneur, you name it, I've done it. But it wasn't always like that. I want to just share with you what I used to be. I used to be an IT engineer. I used to work in IT. I used to lead projects for people in the corporations, companies, small businesses, people in general, to help solve their business challenges with technology. That was my profession. That's all I knew, and that's all I did consistently. But I want to talk to you today about how to make that transition from your day job that you maybe hate or you want to change, or what people have identified and associated you to be, to what you really want to do, to what really makes you feel happy, what you're proud of, what you're coming alive with when you do these things. You see, a lot of people go through work and they go through their jobs and they just don't get any satisfaction out of it. They just do it there for the paycheck. They're there just to make ends meet, or they're there just to survive, and they just really don't want to be there. Or maybe you've been working at your job and for a long time, and you realize that it's not so energetic anymore. It's not so much exciting. It's just more monotony and routine, and there's nothing ever changing or nothing's ever different, and that you want to have some sort of vibrance and change in your life, but you just don't know how to do that because you're just stuck here, and this is comfortable, and this is all that you know, and this is all people have built you up to be, just in this position, in this job. So what happens when you make that change and you go over here into the unknown, where nobody knows you, and you have no credibility, and you have no experience? How do you make that transition between here to here, that gap? And that's what we're going to focus on, because that's very important. This happens throughout our entire lives, no matter what you do. For example, if you want to train and get healthier, which is very important for a lot of people, right? You're going to consistently go to the gym. You're going to work out. You're going to put some resistance on. You're going to maybe push yourself a little bit, and you're going to consistently do it, sacrifice. You're going to work, and you're going to do sets of maybe 3 or 4 or 5, whatever sets of 20 or 30 of whatever repetitions you're training, to build that muscle up, to build that strength up, to build that confidence that you can continuously do these things and add more and more resistance and more different variation to your exercises. So that's change, and that consistency and that repetitious and the resistance is applied in every different area of our life, if you really think about it. So what stops a person from applying that to making a job change, right? When people go work out all the time, they're constantly changing their habits, their rituals, their workout routines, and they're challenging themselves. So why can't we do that with our jobs? Why can't we make that switch? And that's what we're going to get to, because this is very important. To make a change in a job means giving up what you do, which is what your bread and butter is. So there's a lot of emotion attached to that. There's a lot of emotion that goes to what happens if I make this career change and it's no better on the other side, or what happens when I make this career change and then I'm struggling even more, or I'm not making the money I used to, or what happens if I go over here to the other side and nobody knows me, and now I have to re-identify and re-establish myself and who I am to this whole new group of people. You see, that stops a lot of people, because they're so comfortable collecting that paycheck and staying in that comfort zone that they never challenge themselves to grow and really give it 110% effort to make a change in career. So how do we start doing that? Why do we do that, and how do we start doing it? And let me just tackle the first one, is why don't we do that? It's because we're fearful. We're fearful creatures, that we are fearful of the unknown, fearful that we make all these changes and all of a sudden it's not any better, or we're fearful that nobody's going to like us anymore, we're going to lose all our friends and all of our established connections in our network over here. We're fearful that, what happens if we go and try this and we're not successful, then we're one big failure. Or we're fearful that we're going to let our family down if we're not making the money. Or we're fearful of not being able to provide for ourselves, or not being able to solve these problems on this side of learning a new career, a new skill. So all these fears prevent us from moving that and making that transition. So why? Now the question is, why don't we overcome those fears? Or how come we can't overcome them faster than, let's just say, something easier, which is picking up a new exercise routine, right? And really what it boils down to is our psychology of what we're telling ourselves. It's the stories that we've built up in our minds that limit us and tell us why we can't do these things. It's that point where we're like, oh, we're going to make another excuse of why we need to stay over there. It's that point where we're saying, oh, yeah, you know what, I can't do that, and therefore I'm going to come back down to this level because it's too hard to make that transition, that change. It's those points in our lives and those stories in our lives that prevent us from making that transition and fully moving in that direction. So we're self-sabotaging ourselves, if you really think about it. So how do we start breaking those habits? How do we start empowering ourselves? Well, look, number one, it's the stories we're telling ourselves, the limiting beliefs. It's all the things that are happening around us that we're constantly holding on to. Oh, my job, oh, the money, oh, the bills, oh, the debt, oh, my friends, oh, the changes that I got to make. Oh, I'm going to lose my sleep. Oh, I'm not going to be able to eat the foods that I want to eat. Or I'm not going to be able to hang out and have free time. Or people are going to look at me more because I'm making this change now and I'm going to have more attention on me. And what happens if they see a part of me and they judge me and they don't love me anymore the way that I want to be loved? What happens if I lose my friends? What happens if my family members get angry at me because I'm doing all of these great things now and then I can't spend time with them anymore? You see, all of these stories that we're constantly thinking about limit us from making that change, so we're fearful to make that change. Number two, to make that transition is you have it way too easy if you're not able to make that transition and you're constantly thinking about it. And I'm telling you that because you like your comforts. We all like our comforts. We all like to stay where it's nice and easy on this side. But the only way to make a true transformation change is when it gets hard and difficult. You see, if you think about it, let's go back to the working out routine. You work out, you add resistance. Resistance helps build the muscles. If you didn't add the resistance to your body, you would never build muscles. You would never get in shape. So resistance is what helps you grow. Resistance is what helps you evolve, what helps you make quick decisions. It helps you transition faster. That resistance is what you need to help you get the energy, to momentum, to get you to going into a new direction, to make a career change, a lifestyle change, which is a huge change. So you need to apply that resistance purposefully into your life. How do we do that? Right? Number one, take away your luxuries that you can live without. Sit down and really make a list of all the things that you are holding on to that enable you to stay right where you're at. For example, one would be TV. If you're spending a lot of time watching TV all the time in the evenings, that would be the first thing I would say. Cut the TV. So therefore, you have no choice, but you have to learn a new skill in order to grow, to get to another level. That's one distraction. The second distraction is maybe the internet, social media. Maybe you shut the phone off for an hour, right? And you learn a new skill, you learn a new hobby or something, and you evolve to grow into the new profession that you want to be in. Number three, maybe it's surrounding yourself around new people that are more passionate, more driven to where you want to be, where you want to go. So all of these changes, all these little subtle changes help you start applying the resistance and the pressure in your life that you need in order to make this transition change. You see, if you don't do that, then you're always going to stay right where you're at. Unless you lose what you have right here, or things get really, really uncertain and it gets really painful for you, that's when you're going to start making some big changes and you're going to start moving into the direction that you ultimately want to go. The other key principle is keep the vision in front of you of where ultimately you want to be. Which I mean is, don't think about all the little intricate pieces, all the pieces that you got to line up and all the things that could possibly go wrong and all the things you got to change. Because when you do that, you start defeating yourself and it becomes too overwhelming. Keep your vision forward on where you want to be. So if you want to make a change, let's just say switch from being a medical doctor to writing books, right? Keep your vision on writing that book and what's it going to feel like when you write that book for the first time and you get it published, and how you're going to feel about that, where you see yourself and all the emotions that come with it, and what life looks like at the end of that huge transformation change. You see, that end vision keeps you focused on the end prize, and then all of these little itty-bitty obstacles of how am I going to pay the bills, what's my family going to think about me, or how am I going to re-establish myself, credibility, and make my name for myself on this side. All of those things become just blurred out. So you're just focused, crystal clear vision of producing a book and getting to the life that you want to be, which is more happier, working on something that you ultimately feel like you're supposed to be doing, not just doing it for a paycheck, but doing it because you genuinely, authentically want to do that. And that's the difference. That's how you make the transition from where you're at, right, to where you want to be in your career. So I hope that served you well. I hope you could take some of those principles of change, creating resistance for yourself, and then seeing the vision ultimately where you want to be will keep you focused on getting to where you want to see your life. So I hope that really helped you out in getting your transformation to where you see yourself going in the next 5-10 years, and I hope to see you guys out there with more freedom, more passion, and more direction. So live free, live amazingly.